Alright guys, welcome to a special episode of Behind a Desk. Now, a couple of months ago, we announced that we were going to give away these two helmets from VMAR. All you had to do was go to our Instagram account and ask us a question. And if we answer your question today, then you are eligible to win one of these two helmets from VMAR. So we're going to do that right now from Behind a Desk. Okay, the first question is from Bensi Pascual. Bensi asks, if ever the regulations of the 400cc rule is going to change, what do you think should be the new displacement requirement? 250cc, 300, 200? I think this is a question that a lot of Pinoys are probably really curious about because it seems like it does stop people from getting on the expressway. It stops people from going to work sometimes, and it makes things a little bit more difficult. But I think there are several factors here. One is that it lessens the amount of people on the expressway on bikes. Now, is a 250cc or a 200cc bike capable of going about 80 kilometers per hour and 100 kilometers per hour comfortably? Yes, they can. But what it does is that it lessens the possibility, the probability of having an accident on the expressway because of more bikes on the expressway. Do I think it's right? No, I don't, because I think it's the wrong solution to a problem. I think the problem really is driver education, whether you're in a car, a big bike, or a small bike. It's not about if the bike can go this fast, or if a bike can go at a pace where other bigger bikes or cars are going at on the expressway safely. It's about the rider or the driver in a car. Next question from Enye Martinez. With the current trend, do you ever think a China brand will ever be a competitor to the current Japanese or Euro brand of motorcycle? What China brand has a chance? And when do you think this will happen? Very interesting question here, Enye Martinez. In a vacuum, if you're just talking about the motorcycle itself, China brands have come a long way. And yes, they are competitive when it comes to the Big Four and the European brand motorcycles because they are typically a lot more affordable. Something about motorcycles and motorcycle riders that we enjoy is kind of like the heritage of the bike, right? So the China brands, because they're a little bit newer, they kind of don't have the story, the backstory behind it. Like, I'll give you an example. The CF Moto CLX, I mean, I enjoy that bike, I really do. Now, at the same price point at that bike, you can get a Royal Enfield Interceptor. Different types of bikes. One is a little bit more modern, the other one is very retro. The retro one, the Royal Enfield, has a deeper story, has a longer story, a bigger history, and it's a classic looking bike. So if you care about the history and the styling of a classic looking bike, you'd probably get the Royal Enfield. If you're more inclined to just have something that's a little bit more modern, with a little bit more features, a little bit more tech, you'd probably get the CLX, the CF Moto. So I think there is a chance for the China bikes to catch up, but maybe not just now, in the sense that they don't have the same history as the Japanese Big Four and the Euro bikes as of now. Next question we have from Marco Barbosa. Marco asks, given the increase in interest in motorcycles brought about by the pandemic, what advice or tips can you give to newbies on safety, choosing gears and accessories, or just in general, how to navigate and enjoy the world of motorcycles? Well, Marco, we actually did two videos that kind of answer this question. One is about the gear on beginner's use, or need at least, and it should be right here, the link should be there. And then another is about the often errors by a newbie rider on motorcycles, and that link will be here. So you can watch those two videos to check out the answer for your question. Okay, next question from Gilbest Hill again. He's asked multiple questions. Good on him. Gilbest asks, why are checkpoints only for motorcycles? I will say this, that I have gone through a checkpoint, actually within the NCR. I was on my motorcycle and they did stop me, but they also stopped the cars. They were also checking the cars at the checkpoint. Lexter Kuhn asks, how big a role do you think motorcycles, specifically motorcycle tourism, will play in the Philippines' economic recovery? We actually had a podcast on Torque of the Town, which we posted on the MotoDeal YouTube channel, and that's with Senator J.V. Hercito, and he does talk about this in depth. The short answer is we don't know. We don't know. I mean, there is going to be a big debt. I mean, we already are in a big debt. And after the pandemic, if we ever get out of it, the debt's going to be even bigger. Now, will it help? Sure. I'm sure it will definitely help. I don't know how much, because we still definitely need the foreign money to come in for tourism. I do believe that the local tourism, whether it's on motorcycles or cars, it will definitely help. And something that Sen JV said in that podcast is that imagine just going to a city or a town. Once you get there, it's not just a destination, right? You're going to help out with the gas station because you're going to fill up with gas. You're going to help out with the food because you're going to eat in the restaurants. You're going to help out with the lodging because you're going to stay in a hotel or a motel or someplace there. So it should help, but we still definitely need the international money to come in my opinion. Next up, we have a question from Vince Manalu. Vince asks a two-part question. Here's the first part. What should a beginner think or consider before buying a motorcycle? Oh, great question. Well, it depends what kind of motorcycle you're buying, or it depends what kind of rider, why you're buying the motorcycle. So in my opinion, there's really three different types, right? You have the hobbyists who will go for morning rides, for coffee, for breakfast, weekend rides, and then they use it for fun, basically. It's a big toy. The second would be the commuters, the daily commuters, who will use their bikes from home and to work and back. And then the third is the riders who will purchase a bike for their livelihood. So the ones who will be taking care of your deliveries, like an Angkas rider, a Lala Move, Grab, so on and so forth. So for each of those different categories, in my opinion, there are different things to think about. A lot of it is budget related and skill related as well. But in the hobbyist part, all right, the ones who really use it for fun, for just a hobby, you need to think about the type of rider that you are. Like, where are you if you're a beginner, don't get yourself a big, massive bike out there, like something that you can't handle in terms of power. And put it this way, if you buy a bike, make sure you can get insurance, make sure you can buy the proper gear, make sure that you can take care of it, maintain it as well. So those are the things you need to consider when you're buying a bike there. And also the power. So you might want to start a little bit smaller when you're a beginner, if you're in the hobbyist department. The second one, the commuter-based, you also do have to think about a couple of things, right? How far do you live from your work? Do you need to get on the expressway? Right? That will dictate on what type of bike that you'll end up getting. Now, I'm not saying that small bikes cannot get from, let's say, Alabang to Makati, because you can take the side streets. It's a little bit of a hassle, but you can. So a couple of things that you want to think about: fuel economy, of course, reliability is another one. And again, can you afford to maintain that bike? I think in all of them, that's a really important part. And then for the ones who rely on their motorcycles as livelihood, of course you want something as reliable as possible, because syempre, you're on that bike the entire day, right? So you're making all these deliveries, you're doing all these different things, so you want something na super reliable talaga. You want something, of course, with the fuel economy is super good, because again, you're going to be riding around all over the place, and you want something that's going to be affordable. You also want something that's a little bit sturdy, because you are going to be probably having some luggage behind you. So those are things to consider when you're buying a bike in the three different category of riders, in my opinion. He did ask a second question: what kind of discipline should a biker follow? So I'm not quite sure what this actually means. Is it discipline as in disciplina? Because as motorists on the road, whether you're on a bike or a car, kailangan talaga ng disiplina. But if he means something about the style of riding, I think it would be very beneficial to know how to ride on the dirt or off-road for a variety of reasons. Because you'll understand how to handle a bike when it does slide, when the rear tire does slide a little bit. You'll know how to counter it more. And also, it's a good place to learn because if you fall and you're out in the dirt or in the trail, you'll probably fall on grass or mud. And everybody falls on a motorcycle. So it's probably better to fall on grass or mud than it is to fall on pavement. We have a question from Denzukab. Denzukab asks, do you think electric motorcycles are coming to our shores very soon? And do you think we have a market here in the Philippines for electric MC? Interesting question because, well, there are electric scooters already here. We've all seen them. But I think electric big bikes, so to speak, there definitely is a market, but a very small market because I don't think the Philippines is ready. We just don't have the infrastructure in order to service these electric motorcycles. I mean, I'm talking about bikes like the Zero, the Livewire, those type of bikes. I'm sure people, if they brought them here, I'm sure people will buy them. But where can you go? So let's say you ride the Livewire from QC to Tagaytay. I mean, there's no charging stations anywhere else, right? You'll have to bring it back. And so there are all these different things as far as where can you go, where can you charge the bike after. We just don't have the infrastructure for it. So the Philippines, unfortunately, is not ready at the moment, but there is a market. There will be people who will buy these bikes if they do arrive in Philippine shores. This is from Direct John Toits. He asks, what is the difference between a scooter, a underbone, and a motorcycle? Okay, well, a scooter is the simplest one, twist and go, and that's it, right? Very small displacement, typically very small displacement, and it's just the easiest to ride. A underbone is, well, technically a motorcycle, but it looks kind of like a scooter, but it's not automatic, it's semi-automatic, so there are gears, but there is no clutch. And a big motorcycle definitely has a clutch already, and it's going to be, well, unless it's an electric motorcycle, right, then it has no clutch. So those are the basic differences between a scooter, underbone, and a motorcycle. This is from Sir Levi 1496. Sir Levi asks, are carburetor bikes still good option for a buyer? Let's say a newbie rider. Well, sure. Why not? Because especially if you're the type of person who likes to tinker with stuff, right? So if you want to, just make kalkal and do something to the bike, it's definitely easier if you're doing it to a bike that's, carburetor. So I think it's still okay. I mean, two wheels is two wheels, and I think once you get into the lifestyle, we get into the mobility of two wheels, it's definitely worthwhile, no matter what it is. We have now a question from Kevlo Perez. Kevlo asks, when is the best time to use open face helmet and full face helmet? Well, here we have a open face helmet and a full face helmet. Now, anytime you put a helmet on, it's always safer when it's full face. And if you go on further rides and if you go on faster speeds, definitely use a full face. A open face is probably, in my opinion, just for scooters. So if you're just going around town, going around the neighborhood, okay lang mag-open face. But anytime I get on the expressway, always full face. Anytime I'm on a longer ride further out, definitely full face. I only use my open face helmets when I'm riding around town on a slower machine. Next up, we have a question from Maki Sushi 09. Maki asks, here's my question. As a consumer, I want the best quality product when choosing to buy a helmet. What will be the materials I should look for on a quality helmet? Well, actually, Earl, our writer, Earl, wanted to answer this question. So he wrote down his answer, and I will read it to you. If you are on a budget, look for polycarbonate. It's going to absorb impact well enough. But if you have the budget, get a helmet with a fiberglass shell. Fiberglass cracks in all directions when impacted. This disperses the force across a wider surface area. Then if you want a if you want more lightness, go with carbon fiber. You want the interior of your helmet to have an antimicrobial material to keep it from smelling bad quickly and losing its fit in a short amount of time. Following that, you want a multi-density EPS liner. That bit of styrofoam-like material between the pads and the helmet. There are other materials as well, but EPS is the standard used by manufacturers. From Iggy Portia. If you were a lawmaker, what law would you pass in favor of the MC community, or a law that you'd most likely junk?
Senator Gino Rufino.
What a fun question to try and answer. Do we have plate numbers yet? I actually have a lot of ideas, but I think our bosses don't want us to be political, so I'm not going to answer this question, at least not in this platform. Next, we have a question from Lomo Kid. Lomo asks, I've been riding small displacement bikes for a few years now. What is a proper time to switch to a bigger bike? What steps should I take before switching to higher displacements? Great question, Lomo Kid. Well, I'll tell you my personal experience. So I started with a 150cc cafe racer. And with that bike, it took me about a year or so to get used to it, to get used to the different rules, riding on the roads, and the clutch as well. And then from there, I was able to move to a 400cc bike. Same thing, I still had to master the extra weight, the extra power, and then I moved up to a 900. Do I max out at 900? Not all the time. Every now and then I get to max it out when probably on the track, but that's about it. So things that you might wanna in terms of think about is that there's really no set time, right? Usually if you ride a lot, if you're coming from a smaller displacement bike, usually if you ride a lot, I would say about a year, you'd probably get used to that bike and you baka bitin ka na, di ba? So you can move on to a bigger one, 400cc maybe, or maybe even a 650 or so. And then once you get that extra weight, that extra power, then you can proceed to something a little bit bigger. But I'll tell you this, typically I've heard from a lot of friends who've been riding super bikes, they end up going from liter bikes or 1200s and whatnot, and then go back to about a 700 or a 900. I think in the Philippines, that is probably, in my opinion lang, that is probably the happy place with the roads that we have in the Philippines, around the 700 to the 900 displacement. Well, folks, there you have it, our first ever question and answer portion from behind a desk. And we did say that if you asked us a question on Instagram, you could win this and this helmet from VMAR. So thank you very much to MotoStrada for giving us these helmets to give away here on the MotoDeal YouTube channel. So yeah, we're going to announce the winners. We're going to direct message the winners on Instagram. So good luck to all of you out there, and thank you for participating, and hope you guys can follow us on IG as well. So if you do want to learn more about these helmets and maybe buy a motorcycle, log on to www.motodeal.com.ph. This has been Gino Rufino from Behind the Desk.